Hi everyone, today we're going to look at a Devastator build for increasing your tier. It's also good in groups, but it will work in solo play as well. It's not quite as fast of a clear as a Pyromancer build, but you are a little bit more survivable. So the mods I'm using for this and the skills are Earthquake, Gravity Leap, and Impale. Now, the Impale is somewhat optional. You can substitute the Impale out and get the Golem ability. And if you have survivability issues, that helps a lot. If you do that, you're going to change your class skills, which I'll go over in just a moment. Skill-wise, ideally you want the Fortress ability from the Death Shield. If you haven't had the luck on getting a Death Shield, which is harder in earlier tiers, then you can just use standard weapons and the build will still work. Another one that's really good to get with this build is Moaning Winds, where when you reload it does AoE around you. It's very good for single target damage, and if you put it on multiple weapons, you can just shoot once, reload, shoot once, reload, shoot once, reload, and do 3 in a row on the elites if you needed to. The critical mods on this, I have some quote junk mods on here because it's a leveling build, so I don't have everything I want yet. If you're going with the Impale, which we are today, having an extra activation on it helps a lot. And then you also want your Earthquake to inflict bleed on enemies, because what we're going to put on there as well is the skill Rivers of Blood. It increases the skill damage by 50% to enemies afflicted with bleed. So you apply the bleed with the Earthquake, and then you hit the elites with the Impale, and it does pretty good damage. And if they're still not down, then you can switch over to a weapon with Moaning Winds if you have it, and AoE them down. Another thing that is good for this is the Sharpened Spike, because it just increases that Impale damage. The Earthquake bonus damage is also good, but it's not as essential if you use an Impale. If you're using Anomoly Power, then you're going to switch all of these Impale things, or if you're using the Golem stance, you're going to switch all the Impale things out in a perfect world and get the Earthquake damage up. The other thing that's also good, which I don't have for this, is increasing the amount of times you can use your Gravity Leap. If you can multiple Gravity Leap on the elites, it does pretty good damage, but I don't have that currently because I haven't unlocked the mod yet. And then there's a couple of junk mods in here that I have. I've just got Emergency Stance for some extra survivability. Not essential, but useful. And the Restoration for Impale isn't really that useful, but it was already on this piece of gear, and it's what I have. The skills you're looking for are going to be Anomaly Power and Cooldown Reduction. Those are your top two. Your third skill, you can either get Status Power, or you can get Skills Life Leech. Again, this is not optimized gear, but your best rolls are going to be Anomaly, Cooldown, and either Status or Skills Life Leech. So let's go on to the class talents. What I have here is we have the whole bottom tree, and the important notes here, if you boost your resistance piercing, basically I've avoided all the bleed effects, because with this build when you kill them they're not going to take a lot of bleed damage because you're going to kill them before that happens ideally. And then for some extra survivability, you get an armor bonus based on your Anomaly Power, and this is an Anomaly Power build for the Devastator. The deviations that we've done is we've moved up this way to extend the range to be considered close range, which is good because your class ability is going to give you healing for close range and increase your armor and all that. And when you go up here, I went for heirloom armor because when an enemy dies in close range, which is considered 4 meters closer, so instead of 10 meters you're talking 6 meters, or 14 meters is considered close range, then you get extra armor for survivability. The two fluff points that I've put in here are this one increased armor for close range. It's not essential, and neither is the health regeneration. If you go with the Golem ability instead of Impale, then you're going to move these points through the mob and Anomaly in the veins, and you'll want to get cooldown for protection skills, because that's going to apply for Golem, and you're going to want to get using protection increases anomaly power by 45%. So you can basically boost your anomaly power with the Golem ability, and then use your Earthquake and your Gravity Leap. Again, I'm using the Impale because without the extra charges of the Gravity Leap, I just don't have as much damage without the Impale. So I'm running that today. So we're going to go over here, we're going to start up an expedition, and Boomtown's up, so we'll do that one. The highest tier I've completed is tier 10, so I'm at tier 11 currently. So we're going to try it on that and see how it works out for just general clearing and leveling. As I said, it won't be as quick as, say, a Pyromancer clear, but it will be good for survivability, and with the most recent patch, the survivability seems to be a larger issue than it used to be. Key notes with this build are going to be the order you do your skills. Ideally, you want an Earthquake to get the bleed effect on, and then you impale the elites. Earthquake's going to be your big damage, and then I'm going to go ahead and unload my pistol, and I'm going to use that for the Moaning Winds effect when it applies. You could even sub out the Gravity Leap, but I just like it for being able to close the gap here. And then you see that that spike does a lot of damage to that elite. But most of your damage for the overall clear is going to be the Earthquake. And we'll switch to this. As I said, the clears aren't as good as with, say, a Pyromancer, but they're functional and more survivable. Those guys will probably bleed out. You can also get the ability that applies bleed when you Gravity Leap, but again, I don't have the multiple uses for that. It's better if you have multiple uses. And I'm getting swarmed, so I'm just going to pop to my pistol, reload. And then that gives you your extra damage there. We're going to take out this captain. And you see the damage from that bleed effect is pretty good. The problem is the longer cooldown. That's why a lot of times the Golem ability is better. But you have to have the extra uses of the Gravity Leap to make that one more viable. I also have Untamed Power, so every time I use a skill, I do an AoE around me for 30% of your anomaly power. It really helps with the leveling section of this. Not as critical when you're doing group tier 15 content, or even single tier 15, but it's very useful when you're running solo, because that extra damage, that really adds up. And you see when I pull the pistol out for the Moaning Winds, I'm just switching back before it even reloads the weapon, so I don't have to discharge the rounds whenever I want to use it. The only annoying part with the spikes is that until they fall off the spike when you kill them with it, it doesn't move you on or consider them dead. So if you're really in a hurry, you want to try to avoid using it on the last couple guys in the room. He's got his bleed, so the Impale is going to do a lot of damage, and he just got a little bit left. Now the plus side with the Untamed Power is when you use your class melee skill, it triggers the Untamed Power AoE damage, which is very nice. So if you're ever at a lack of things to do, you can just pop a melee in there, working into your rotation, and it just works that much better. Like here. Pop. And the other thing you want to try to do is make sure when you do your Earthquake ability, you want to try to line up as many guys behind them. Kind of draw a line between the guy you're targeting and the ones behind them. And if you get really good at it, then you can switch in the Earthquake ability that extends the range by 60%. Kind of helps you clear those little mobs in the back sometimes. Of course, I'm used to Pyromancer, so I used to doing that with Heat Wave as it is. And he's got bleed on him, so that Impale just does pretty good damage. Pop some melees in there. And if you enjoy the melee mechanic, it'd be okay to switch some melee mods in with the Golem ability and do that instead of the Impale. And that's the big downside with the Devastator. I'm going to have a bunch of stray guys around. And you know I'm not a speedrunner or anything, so I'm going for more of a functional build, and I don't have the most efficient paths, I know this. I actually left that guy up top there on purpose because after I take this marksman out I want to be able to leap to him. It'll save me a couple seconds. Probably only going to silver this, but you know, so we'll work on this. That's a leveling build. It's harder to get gold and everything until your gear is perfect. I got this marksman. I find them obnoxious. Take out this ironclad first. That Moaning Winds damage is very nice for elites, especially since you suffer from long cooldowns of this build until you get multiple uses of your Earthquake and your Gravity Leap. When your builds are more optimized, it's better to get 3 uses of the Earthquake if you can get the mods for it, and a couple uses of the Gravity Leap. But the Impale holds you over until you can get the perfect build. And a lot of times for increasing your cheer, it's easier to do a firepower build. But this is a good example of how these builds can work out for anomaly power if you prefer that. Once you get perfect mods, of course, you can do whatever build you want. The key I went for here was survivability. with reasonable clear times as opposed to perfect speed. It's just safer to do. You can consistently increase your tier without having to worry about dying over and over as much. And there's one guy left. It's only tier 11 and it's silver, but is enough to increase your tier to get you up to tier 15. And if we had perfect mods and gear, then of course we could gold it, but it takes time to get all those. But it's functional for your soloist and people who don't have as many people to group with. And we got a legendary. Let's see the damage breakdown. So you see here the Earthquake is the bulk of your damage. Impale is the second one. And Untamed Power is there in third. It's actually doing more damage than the Gravity Leap because we only have a single charge of Gravity Leap. But even if you can double charge it, when you Gravity Leap on them, the Untamed Power will trigger, and so those will be pretty good overall. Again, the Impale damage is decent. It's got a really long cooldown. That's the only downside with this. So switching out for Golem with the Anomoly Power skill is an option. And if you look at the bleed damage, it's there, but it's not huge, so that's why I skipped the bleed abilities. But you could go into them if you wanted extra survivability, instead of going into the Golem area. But it's a good option. And it's functional, and my tier has gone up from tier 11 to 12. And this build can carry you over until you can get all the gear that you are really shooting for. In the ideal one, you're going to get your set piece, your set gear that increases the Earthquake. Because as you can see, that even with all the mods added to my my Impale, it still wasn't my top damage. But if you add up those same number of mods toward Earthquake damage, and multiple uses of Earthquake, then it does even better. It's more efficient, so that's why it's a decent option. Alright, I hope you enjoyed the video, and again, that's just a easy to use, average player level build that can get you to tier 15 with the Devastator. If you liked the video, feel free to like or leave a comment, and have a great day.